this world, but in it all the same. After the first reading of this for me, I was sure that Mary Oliver meant that being alive was not something we got to decide, plan, and bring to fruition, that our birth was outside of our control, even forced on us. After a second reading, I contemplated that she could also mean that we never intended to be in this world, this particular world, the one that is so full of suffering, so full of pain. Surely we expected to be a more compassionate and caring world. Either way, though, we're in it just the same. So why not get started immediately? I mean, belonging to it, she continued. But I think the fact that she starts the poem apologizing, she said, you never intended to be here. Like, it's like she's saying, I'm so sorry you have to be here, but you're here, right? So let's make the best of it. Oops. There we go. Let's make the best of it, right? I think the fact that she starts it that way indicates to me, at least, that she's taking into account that the world can be a challenging place to be in, and it has so much to admire at the same time, so much to weep over, so much to write music and poetry about. So let's add to the fact that we are already in a challenging world. Let's add to that the fact that our brains have a built-in negative bias. This is according to research. It is reasoned that our ancestors' survival depended on this bias. That is to say, one bad experience during a day of hunting and gathering could be the difference between life and death. So although we live differently from our ancestors, we continue to have this bias. And research shows that the brain generally reacts more to a negative stimulus than to an equally intense positive one. We typically learn faster from pain. Could you imagine? We typically learn faster from pain than from pleasure. Painful experiences are usually more memorable than pleasurable ones. And lastly, good relationships need a 5-to-1 ratio of positive to negative interactions. So, if you're like me, you can have a beautiful day where you have an overwhelming number of positive experiences, but somebody cuts me off in traffic and that's it. My day was horrible. Rick Hansen notes that the brain is like Velcro when it comes to negative experiences and like Teflon when it comes to positive ones. This tends to color our implicit memory. That is to say, the underlying feelings, expectations, beliefs, inclinations, and even our mood. All of that, it tends to impact negatively. If you can imagine that most of us, not just me, the different happenings in our day are very positive or neutral. Yet, because of this implicit memory, at the end of it, you feel like your life may be miserable. Yet, our implicit memory has a much easier time of accessing memory than because of this built-in bias. Not only does this access block recalling the positive and neutral things, it can render us distressed, ill-tempered, and despondent. Is there a way, though, to tilt our implicit bias or implicit memory toward what is good, what is positive, in order to cultivate joy in our lives? Joy that we very much need to sustain us, especially in difficult times, especially if we are to carry out our justice work. To cultivate this joy, So let's think about it. For example, to cultivate means to acquire or develop, a quality, a sentiment, skill. This is what Merriam-Webster tells us anyway. And joy, it says, is the emotion evoked by well-being, the expression or exhibition of this memory, this good feeling, a state of happiness or felicity, a source or cause of delight. So, if we put that together, right, cultivating and joy, we get trying to acquire or develop the emotion evoked by well-being. Cultivating joy then implies practicing as we are trying to develop, to become something. Cultivating joy also hints at making a choice, because we have to intentionally work at accomplishing something. It is not simply that some of us are joyful or have joy while others are not joyful or have no joy, or at least that is not necessarily the case. It doesn't have to be that. It is that tilting of our implicit memory towards the good. UU minister, Reverend Peggy Clark, notes that joy is not in the circumstance, but in the response. The sun rises every day, right? Like it or not. Being entranced by it is a choice. In other words, good and wondrous things are going to happen around us all the time, whether we care or not, right? But taking the time to take notice of those wonderful things. For example, I didn't know sunrises could be as beautiful as what I have been experiencing here in Hawaii. Now, the sun rises like that every day. I could choose to be in awe of it, or I could ignore it, but it's going to happen. And I chose to be in awe of it, even set my alarm. I am not a morning person, even set my alarm to wake up early enough to catch it. So I guess it's in the same way, right? We can continue to have all these 50 positive experiences in a day, but we can let one bad thing happen. I could see beautiful sunset after beautiful sunsets, and then at the end of the day, something happened and I can let that color the entire day. So we need to make a choice to consider what is happening around us, the beautiful things that are happening around us. I think what happens is that the negative things demand our notice, while the positive things do not. We have to choose to see them. So take notice of these, and it's, in a way, it's taking the courage to do that, because if the negative things are gonna demand our experiences anyway, taking the time, taking a moment to notice what is beautiful around us is asking us to have courage to stop, even in our sadness, to see what is good. Now, understand that I am not dismissing the difficulties of life, of the pain and suffering that life can bring with it. It is instead an invitation, whenever possible, to seek out delight, even if they may be few and far between, to cultivate joy. And actually, activist Valerie Kaur notes that joy is possible even amid great labors, the labor of dying, the labor of birthing, the labors between. We cannot force it, but when we create moments to breathe between labor pains and surrender our senses to the present moment, notice the colors and light and feeling of being alive here together, joy comes more easily. In the face of horrors visited upon our world daily, and the struggle to protect our loved ones, choosing to let joy in is a revolutionary act. It gives us energy for the long labor. And joy, we see even darkness with new eyes. Joy returns us to everything that is good and beautiful and worth fighting for. I am not alone, she continued. I am one in millions. I was part of a movement, one in a constellation. I had to shine my light in my specific slice of sky. I could do that. You could do that. You could shine your light in your specific spot, in your specific slice of sky. If we all do that, we can not only cultivate joy for ourselves, we can give joy to others. So joy is not simply about having fun and laughing, although it encompasses both of these things, but it requires something deeper from us. It requires something of us. We can't passively wait for it. We have to engage it, massage it, allow our senses to be open to it in order to see the beauty in the world among the muck, to hear nature, music, etc., while simultaneously hearing the pain, the suffering of the world, to speak truth in love, to speak out for others, to dance or otherwise connect with our bodies and touch the lives of others. Smell the flowers. I can't help but smell this so close to my nose. Smell the flowers, so to speak, without turning away from the stench. To be present and in the moment. Poet Toy Derricott states that joy is an act of resistance. And Valerie Kerr says it is an act of revolutionary love. As people of faith, with a call to fight for social justice, these affirmations about joy are worthy of our attention. Both statements come from a position of strength and love instead of fear. Derricott reminds us to maintain our stance and not let the evils in the world break us into submission, while Kerr reminds us to keep our humanity. They are also reminders to be true to our deepest selves. So as I see it, joy isn't just something to be desired, it is a necessary companion in life's journey. It is an act of defiance. It is a declaration that the evils of the world cannot touch the deepest and most precious part of you. It is a protecting of that precious self from one's oppressor. Reverend Kimberly Quinn Johnson wrote in an article for the UU World that during the brutality of chattel enslavement in the era of white-dominated sharecropping, Black people wrote and performed songs of resistance, reaching into the inner recesses of their suffering to uncover balms of joy. They sing gospel trains and sweet chariots coming to rescue them and of not having long to stay here. While some have claimed that these songs of joy symbolize Blacks' passive acceptance of subservience, Frederick Douglass, a formerly enslaved abolitionist, claimed that every tone was a testimony against slavery and a prayer to God for deliverance from chains. While Black bodies were claimed, were chained, Black psyches weren't. Cultivating joy, dear ones, is an act of resistance, as a revolutionary act of love, as an act of defiance, and a senseless and at times cruelly unjust world. So I encourage you to cultivate joy. And here are some possible ways that you can do that. Understanding that we have a negative bias, right? Take time to examine the facts of our daily lives and intentionally place the negative experiences in their proper place and make it a point to affirm the positive experiences. Reverend Terry from our Chalice Lighting Words encourage us to make room for joy, clearing out space of shame, doubt, and self-recrimination. and that requires practice. So make the work of cultivating joy a daily practice. Mary Oliver from our reading reminds us to bless the feet that take you to and fro. Bless the eyes and the listening ears. Bless the tongue, the marvel of taste. Bless touching. So I invite you to engage in a gratitude practice. At the end of the day, before you give in to slumber, jot down in a gratitude journal a text to a friend, at least one thing you are grateful for. And as time goes by, increase the number of gratitudes daily. Soon you will find yourself looking for moments of gratitude throughout your day. Engage in joy spotting practices. This can be even combining a gratitude practice as a gratitude and joy in hand, right? So gratitude, if you are noticing things and you are grateful for them, they automatically increase your feeling of joy. Spend time with loved ones, especially those that make your heart glad. Make it a point to engage in playful and joyful activities. Take time to reflect, rest. I know sometimes, at least for most of us from the mainland, resting is seen as something, when you have time for, but rest is important. So take time for that. What are some other things that you can think of that would encourage you to cultivate joy in your life? What are some things that you do right now that you can think of that bring joys in your life? Feel free to call them out. Go to the beach. Call a friend, yes. Walk through the park. Yeah. I heard something back. So I can't hear everything, so know that they are being heard in the space, even if I'm not hearing them. And there are many other things too, right? Even if you're not thinking of them now, later you may say, oh, this particular thing brings me joy. Maybe I should do more of it. If you knew yourself for even one moment, if you could just glimpse your most beautiful face, maybe you wouldn't slumber so deeply in that house of clay. Why not move into your house of joy and shine into every crevice? For you are the secret treasure bearer and always have been. Did you know? This is credited to Rumi. So dear ones, may you know that you are the secret treasure bearer and always have been. May it be so.